The Indo-US trade deal is being also seen as the father of all deals. Soon after, the EU deal was proclaimed to be the mother of all deals. But in announcing this deal, has Donald Trump making certain claims which are perhaps being challenged politically by the opposition closer home, has he underlined Bharat's place in the future? Bharat's economic heft and potential, has it perhaps been realized by Donald Trump and the Americans more than Bharat itself? Let's go and understand this better with someone who's also worked very closely with the Americans in his role as former ambassador to the United States. Ambassador Arun Singh is with us. Arunji, namaste. Your thoughts on what's being spelt out, especially when the reciprocal tariffs come down from 25 to 18%, the 50% tariff is waived off. Bharat on the other side says we're not going to buy too much of Russian oil. But when Trump says $500 billion worth of American imports in core sectors, including tech, agriculture, energy and coal, does that perhaps underline Bharat's potential more than we ourselves believe we can do?
So, Anand, I'd say first that we have to wait for the details of what actually has been agreed to come out. Right now, we are just seeing the big announcements. Second, we have to keep in mind that Trump very often over-projects because he's over-projecting for his own political purposes. When he did the trade agreement with Japan, he said Japan would invest $500 billion in the US, and now it will be like a US sovereign wealth fund. Now, details of that are still being worked out. South Korea, he said, will invest $350 billion in the US. And South Korea is now saying they're not in a position to do that. So there is a certain element in Trump's politics to over-project so that it plays well with his base. So we have to keep that in mind. But I think the important thing here is that the US has now agreed to move ahead with a lower tariff on India. By all accounts, the details of the trade agreement between India and the US had been more or less worked out by the middle of last year. And the only reason Trump didn't accept it that time, because it didn't work for him politically. He was getting far more concessions in his trade agreements with Indonesia, Vietnam, on whom he imposed 20% tariffs, EU, Japan, South Korea, who announced huge investments in the US. So he was working for something that could work for him politically. He didn't agree. The second thing was that he was coming under criticism for not taking any action against Russia since he became president. And he felt that he couldn't take action against Russia because he wanted to maintain outreach to Russia. He couldn't take action against China, which was buying much more Russian oil than India was doing. Because in April, when he raised tariffs against China, China also raised tariffs and the US bond market got destabilized. So he hit India instead. So from Indian perspective, that was completely not fair. But I think two things happened. When the Prime Minister went to China for the SCO summit, the optics of Prime Minister's meeting with President Putin and President Xi played out very negatively for President Trump in the US. Because there was a sense that the US was beginning to lose India to who were seen as US's rivals. So suddenly the tone of President Trump in his tweets related to India, related to Prime Minister, started changing. And I think now the second thing that has happened is this major trade agreement that you referred to between India and the EU. And so then there was an argument in the US that what is the reason for this tariffs if India is going ahead with other trade agreements and the manufacturers in the EU will get competitive advantage vis-a-vis the US. So I think from that perspective, politically, the moment was right for the US president to move ahead with the trade agreement with India. So they've done it. So I would say the competitive disadvantage that India had since July, August last year, that is being removed because tariffs on Indonesia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal are now higher than the tariffs on India. So that's one. Second, the negative perceptions related to the India-US relationship, the uncertainty that had been brought in as US manufacturing was looking at China plus strategies, was looking at moving to India to doing manufacturing instead of China, that negative perception will go away. So to that extent, it's a positive development. But still, we have to remember that compared to April last year, the tariffs that now have been placed are far higher than they were in April. Because in April, the average tariffs were 2.5%. Now they're 18%. But this also costs to the US consumer.
But is there more beyond just trade and perhaps domestic politics for Donald Trump? Is there a shift geopolitically that's happening, or is it purely the EU deal, like you said, that's now goaded Trump into signing off on this EO and also working on and pushing the talks for a comprehensive trade deal?
So I think certainly the India-EU trade deal had an impact. Beyond that, I think the US system recognized that they could not pressurize India beyond a point. India was not going to give in terms of what were India's red lines, some of the sensitive sectors, or what were the US demands. And India was not going to accommodate the US fully on Russia because it's a very, very vital relationship for India. Plus, as Indian interlocutors have repeatedly said, that we will also be determined by market conditions. What is the best market condition for India to look at different sources? So they understood that India will stand its ground in different areas. And therefore, it was a time for the US to move away from the position it has taken. So I think even in the current redefined US posture globally, when it is pulling back a little from Europe, not giving the same level of adversarial attention to China as they had done earlier and changing its posture in Indo-Pacific, focusing more on what is now described as the Western Hemisphere, the American continent. Still, they see China as the main economic, technological, and military rival. And they believe that with the intense technological competition that China has mounted, for US to retain its global lead in innovation, India will remain an important partner. If you look at the number of global capability centers that are coming in India, you look at India's tech human skill capital. That's very useful for American industry to partner with. So the India relationship is important. And so I think this is a recognition of that. But at the same time, you have to remember that they've done only 10% tariffs on UK.
Correct.
15% on Europe, Japan, and South Korea. And now 18% on India. So there is a certain recognition of India's importance. But they've kept lower tariffs on those that are seen as their military allies and partners.
Yeah, the natural allies or those part of NATO, etc., and there is a far greater strategic military engagement also. But Ambassador, if I may ask you, not buying Russian oil, now is that going to hurt Bharat, or was it temporary, or does it mean? Because from Bharat's side, what's being said is that we will buy from non-sanctioned entities. So does this also somewhere signal that we are perhaps right at the cusp of the Russia-Ukraine conflict coming to an end, and very soon in the coming months sanctions being lifted off Russia?
No, I don't think this is necessarily an indication of that. Before 2022, for example, India hardly bought any energy supplies from Russia. And we bought after that based on market conditions. Because that was the oil that was available at reasonable prices or discounted prices. And then again, from the data that has been coming out, in the last few months, India has reduced its purchases of Russian oil. Again, looking at market conditions. So I think as the market conditions are changing, US is willing to offer more energy. The supplies from Venezuela, which India was buying a lot earlier, are now re-entering the global market. So given that, I think there will certainly be a rebalancing.
But my final question to you is the criticism coming from the opposition, who claim that PM Modi has sold out Bharat. Bharat ko bech diya hai. We've sold out Bharat's sovereignty to the US. Is there merit in this accusation?
From my perspective, I think till we actually see the details of what has been agreed to, perhaps it may be a bit premature to make that argument. Because we need to wait for the details. And I think the very fact that it took so many months for the US to finally accept this agreement would suggest that India stood its ground on some of the areas that are of importance to India, be it in agriculture, dairy, and other sectors. And eventually the US decided that they needed to move ahead, given how India was working out its trade agreements, and as well as the political posture, indicating that it had other choices.
Ambassador Arun Singh ji, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a historic deal that was a long time pending. Der aaye, durust aaye, many people would say, but there is also a certain level of criticism. The larger question being, has Bharat upheld and the government upheld Bharat's interests or perhaps compromised it in a way. Let's go across to Sri Gaurav Vallabh, who is also a key member of the Prime Minister Economic Advisory Council. Gaurav Vallabh ji, namaste. It is a Shubh Din, Acha Mangalwar hai, that's what many would say. But the opposition is alleging that Bharat's interest has been sold off. Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi ने भारत को US के हाथों बेच दिया. How would you respond?
अब किसी के चश्मे में अगर 50% से 18% सोल्ड आउट है, तो आनंद जी उनको ना तो आप बच समझा सकते हो ना मैं समझा सकता हूँ. आई विल गिव यू वन एग्जांपल एंड इफ दे आर वाचिंग दे शुड इंट्रोस्पेक्ट व्हाट दे आर आस्किंग. इफ दिस पेन इज एक्सपोर्टेड in US day before yesterday and prices in India is 100 rupee, the price in US will be 150 rupee. But today the same pen will be at 118 rupees. 32 rupees the price of this pen will come down. So naturally this pen will be sold more. So instead of this pen, now I am giving proxy of this pen. Handicrafts, leather products, gems and jewelry, chemical mixtures, the large engineering products, the handloom industry. These are the major exports by India to US. Those prices of all these products are going to come down from 50% duty to 18%, 30% reduction in the tariff. So naturally Indian market share in US economy will be higher. Second point, Anandji, all these products are manufactured by MSME. Majority of items, examples which I gave you, like leather, Kanpur, Agra, handicrafts in Jodhpur, Udaipur, handloom in Jaipur, gems and jewelry from Surat. These are basically the MSME sector. The MSME will get a big boost after the today's deal between India and the US. Not only MSME, the large corporates are also going to get benefit. Number one, the chemical industry, the large engineering equipments are also going to be benefited with this deal. अब जिसको ये बात समझ में नहीं आ रही आनंद जी, उसको मंगलवार के दिन हनुमान जी भी आ जाए तो भी उनका मंगल नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि वो अमंगल का चश्मा पहन के बैठे हैं. मंगलवार के दिन मंगल होना है और वो अमंगल की बातें कर रहे हैं.
Right. Gaurav Vallabh ji, I'm going to request you to please stay on with us as I also say greet Mohandas Pai ji also joining us. Mohandas Pai ji, namaste. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's take this conversation forward a little. I just have one more question to Mr. Gaurav Vallabh before I bring that to you, Mohandas Pai ji. The issue is not what's going out, it's about what's coming in. The Trump saying 500 billion worth of export. Secretary Rollins saying agriculture sector has been opened. Now, compromising the interest of Bharatiya Kisan. That's where the political angle is. कि आपने फार्म सेक्टर को खोलकर भारत को बेच दिया because how are you going to do $500 billion if you are not compromising the interest of Bharat's farmers? Gaurav Vallabh.
Anand ji, the way and the maturity at which we had handled this particular deal. Why it happened? Because of the maturity and patience. We had not reciprocated कि भाई US ने ये बोल दिया, हमने ये बोल दिया. No. We had maturely handled this deal and the results were yesterday we got that. Now second point Anandji, and I just want to remind what Prime Minister Modi ji had mentioned. भारत के किसानों, भारत के पशुपालकों, भारत के मछुआरों के साथ, and I did one program with you on when this 50% tariff was imposed. These three sectors, there will be no compromise. So whatever somebody is saying, I am more concerned with what my Prime Minister is saying, and just no need to jump the guns, wait for the final agreement to arrive, wait for the statement by External Affairs Ministry, Commerce Ministry, Oil and Natural Gas Ministry, and I am very sure this deal is a win-win-win, three wins. Win for MSME and large corporates, win for 140 crore consumers in our country, and win for the diplomacy and the global trade of both the countries. I can tell you with proud, Anandji, last statement, that some time back, year back, 2 year back, हम बोलते थे हमारा time आएगा. आज मैं कहता हूं कि भारत का टाइम आ गया. We had arrived.
Mohandas Paji, is this $500 billion being interpreted wrongly? Because it's supposed to be over 5 years, 100 billion over every year over the next 5 years. Is that one interpretation? Or how would you read this and the opposition's criticism?
Look, President Trump has to justify what he does to his domestic audience. So he's saying that this deal will give us $500 billion of business. And we're not going to buy $500 billion tomorrow, right? It'll be over a number of years. We probably will buy more oil from the US. We'll buy some coal from the US. We could import some pulses from the US, which we import anyway from Canada and other countries. We could import some agriculture goods for which we already agreed, not milk or anything else, which are not agreed, because India's red lines are known very well. And we will import more planes, right? And
Yes.
we may import another, buy another 1,000 Boeing planes, right? We'll buy some defense goods over the next few years. So it's not going to happen this year, next year. It's going to happen over the future, maybe 5, 6, 10 years. But certainly, I think India-America, trade will be boosted. Now, I think India will definitely export more to the US because the biggest market. There were a lot of barriers in the US. Now that is imposed 15% tariff on the whole of Europe, on Korea, on Japan, who are their allies, right? And 34% or so for China, which is dumping goods there. And we got 18%. So in the order of hierarchy, I think it's sending a message that after the allies, India is important to America by charging 18%. Because what is the logic for 18%? It has to be higher than 15% because that's what it gives the allies. It probably has to be lower than China, and 18% is a pretty good one. That means you've got a level playing field compared to all countries because almost all countries have got tariffs.
Right.
And now the market opens for us. The negativity in our markets, negativity in people selling against rupee and taking assets out, I think the negativity go. So I think there could be stability now. And I think India has done well. We bought Russian oil because it was cheaper. It was in a national interest. We refused to be bullied. And more importantly, Anand, we refused to abuse President Trump like all other global leaders did. We kept quiet. I think Modi-san kept quiet because he knew that there's no point picking up a fight. You have to have patience. You have to deal with them, negotiate with them. Trump is a deal maker. Trump is a deal maker. And now for the patience, yes, we suffered. There's been a lot of pain in this country. But I think at the end of it, we showed that we are independent when a large part of the world caved in.
Let me just quickly ask you and then bring Gaurav Vallabh in also in this conversation. The markets have rallied 13 lakh crore up. That's what it's been infused in the first 2-3 hours of markets opening on this Tuesday. The other part, the rupee has rallied by 1.5%. It's now touching just 90 rupees plus a little compared to 92 rupees on Friday. That means there was huge expectation and there is huge this one. But in terms of political interpretation, agriculture, farmers, this is a political sentiment. There are states that are going to the polls. The opposition is going to whip up the frenzy. Should the government be quick on the counter to clarify? That's my question to you.
No, look, I think government must release the deal which they have already signed. And India has said that we're not going to allow milk to come in, right? We may allow some cheese to come in, not milk. We said we're not going to allow wheat and rice to come in because, that's different. Pulses is in short supply. We import anyway. And some of these pears and almonds.
American
and all
corn and California almonds and all that.
California wants to sell almonds to us. We sell them software. I think it's a very good deal. We buy their almond, they buy our software. That's a very good deal. I think government of India has done that. I don't think anybody has anything to criticize this deal from the India side. And look, all the secretaries of state for agriculture in the US have to cater to the constituency.
Right.
There's a surplus of lentils in the US, pulses in the US. We want pulses. It's good for us. And I think there's a good deal.
Even with these trade deals, there is a lag because it's not going to come into fruition immediately. And also the 50 to 18% is not happening overnight. Trump has to sign the executive order. It has to come into play. So we got to move to ensure that we oil the wheels. And
he will sign it immediately. He's capable of signing it the same day. Don't worry. I think he will do it immediately.
Yeah, but point is then it has to translate into immediate response from Bharat and to ensure that the comprehensive deal is also signed and the US Congress approves it. Because very soon...
No, US Congress doesn't have to approve. US Congress doesn't have to approve this 18%. Remember...
No, not the 18%. The overall deal.
No, overall deal is different. But see, what is the overall deal? He is increased tariff, reduced it. Now, on our side, when we have to reduce tariff, we do it by notification. Doesn't go to Parliament.
Okay.
So our finance minister can do it tomorrow and place it in Parliament.
Our finance minister can do it tomorrow, but Gaurav Vallabhji, there is Bengal polls, there is Tamil Nadu polls, there is Punjab over the turn of the year, there is Puducherry, all of these, Kerala, and these are all states which will whip up this entire sentiment that is trying to be built, that Indian interests have been actually compromised. My final question to you.
See, as I told you at the beginning of our discussion, and because exact details, let us wait. But I am quoting Prime Minister's statement that भारत के किसानों, अन्नदाताओं, पशुपालकों, गौपालकों और मछुआरों के इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ कोई भी चीज में कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं होगा. That is what Prime Minister had precisely mentioned, and we mean it. We mean it, what Prime Minister had mentioned.
Agreed. Agreed. There is also this whole aspect of Russian oil and compromising interests with Russia while buying more Venezuelan crude and American oil. Mohandas Pai, I have to ask you this and then we'll wind this conversation up. Yes.
No, Anand, look, we have paid a heavy price for Russian crude and the discount is not too high. Okay. Look at all the data for the last 6 months. Discount is not too high. Now, if you buy Venezuelan crude, it's heavy crude. Heavy crude, only few refineries use, including Reliance. And Trump wants to sell it because there are few refineries in the world which can use Venezuelan crude at scale. Everybody cannot use it, all right? So I think we can use it. We got the refineries, we'll use it. I mean, look, this is all rhetoric. Just like my friend has to say, Prime Minister said this will protect, and that is he has to do it. The US Secretary also said, good for farmers. Trump has done a great thing for farmers because the public information. The impact both sides is going to take time. We have to accept that. It doesn't matter. The key thing is markets discount the future. Market discounted. See, remember, Anand, yesterday on the 1st, the finance minister put some higher STT on options and futures. The market fell 10 lakh crores we lost.
Correct.
And they said we're going to get 10,000 crore more, even though the CA said it's not about revenue. We're trying to protect people, the middle class. The total loss on this was about 1,40,000 crores for millions of people last year. But in one day, we lost 10 lakh crores. Today, we've gone up 13 lakh crores. You understand? Markets react instantly. But good news is, sentiment between India and US has changed. We have come to a new level. Indian industry is gung-ho. They will export to America. The pain is gone away. We have hope about the EU deal. And certainly, the EU deal wouldn't have happened if President Trump has not abused the EU and threatened them.
Correct. So somewhere President Trump has also helped Bharat's cause directly or indirectly.
Anand, please remember one thing. The European Union is more bureaucratic than India.
Correct.
They're much more, they'll take years and years and years. Now, they did it very fast because President Trump was going after them. They wanted to show President Trump, we are better than the US, we're better than this, I guess. So they accelerated everything. And all the contentious issue with they're not agreeing, they put it aside for the future. Right? A good way to make a deal. India got what it wanted. India said, we'll not open up agriculture to EU. We're not opening up. Right? And for US, we said, we'll buy almonds and fruits and all that. Pulsar, that is fine. We are buying anyway. I think the good deal for all of us. India has done very well.
All right. So we seem to have mastered the art of the deal penned by President Trump. 10 deals, 10 deals in the last 4 years already, and we're still talking more.
Anand, let me make a thing. Please remember, our Prime Minister is from Gujarat. Deal making comes
it's in their blood.
It doesn't come to Manmohan Singh, doesn't come to Manmohan Singh, the family in Delhi, the bureaucrats in Delhi.
Yes, Gaurav Vallabh. Yes, Gaurav Vallabh. Yeah.
On a lighter note, Mata of all deal met with Pita of all deal.
All right. On that note, we're going to wind this conversation up. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for speaking with us and for being so candid with your thoughts. We're going to take a very, very short break. Stay with us.